Monster High New Ghoul in School is probably the most well-known of the Monster High video games. It was released in 2015 and was available on the PlayStation 3, the Wii, the Wii U, the 3DS, Xbox 360, and eventually PC on Steam. I played the Wii U version a million times as a kid and thought it was just the most brilliant thing ever. Playing it again now, it's still honestly a really good Monster High game experience, although there's a lot of oddities. With the new Gen 3 Monster High game having come out somewhat recently, and wow, the graphics look pretty identical to the 2015 Wii game, don't they? I thought now would be a good time to do a deep dive into the lore, bugs, Easter eggs, and general useless info of Monster High New Ghoul in School. Storylines. Before we get into the story of this game, where does it fit on the general Monster High timeline? The game slots in with the movies pretty nicely. We can tell it takes place after Freaky Fusion due to the Freaky Fusion characters being present, but it also takes place after Haunted because Spectra's blog is referred to as the Gory Gazette, not the Ghostly Gossip. This game technically came out a couple days after the Boo York movie was released, but seeing as the game was obviously in development for a while before this, the storyline appears to take place before Boo York. Caddy is in her new Scaremester outfit instead of any of her Boo York looks. Main story. So what is the story of New Ghoul in School? It follows you and the character you create, who is the titular New Ghoul. You arrive at Monster High and immediately join two clubs, the Student Council and the Fear Leading Team. You go about your daily life in Monster High for a while, the Council plans a big sale, and the Fear Leaders are preparing for the Monster Nationals competition. Soon, Cleo's birthday comes to pass. She's eager to show off her favorite birthday gift, a mysterious amulet. Quickly after coming into contact with the amulet, Cleo starts to act oddly. You see her whispering with Spectra, who also starts to behave strangely. They keep having little moments where they act out of character and start spewing nonsense about ancient Egyptian stuff, before coming to their senses, not remembering anything that just happened. It gets so bad that you and the other Fear Leaders make the decision to kick Cleo off the team after she's uncharacteristically cruel to Ghoulia. Meanwhile, the disease is spreading. More and more characters become cursed. Turns out Cleo's amulet is possessed by an evil ancient Egyptian guy who used to be the head of a different school. He tried to mind control his entire school to take over the world, but Headmistress Bloodgood caught wind of this, and he was caught by the school board and trapped in the amulet for all eternity. Somehow, the amulet came into Cleo's family's possession, no clue how, and now King Spook and Common is working from inside the amulet to take over Monster High. You, Frankie, Laguna, Ghoulia, and the last of the uncursed students at Monster High work together to come up with a plan to defeat King Spook and Common during the Monster Nationals Fear Leading event. It works, you destroy the amulet, and all is well. Side stories. Besides the exciting, life-threatening events of the main story, there's a number of casual side stories about the other clubs in school. These stories, unlike the main quests, are not voice-acted. Let's start with the Enviro Club. This club has Iris Klops, Gilda Goldstag, Venus McFlytrap, and Jane Boolittle. You start by collecting plant food for the group, then making a super plant food that makes one of the plants giant. Venus is unhappy with the school paper's coverage, calling the plant dangerous, so she uses her pollen of persuasion to force Rochelle to change her article. You see this happen, tell the others, and everyone agrees that wasn't a great thing to do, so you all confront Venus. She sees the error of her ways, she apologizes, and that's about it. Next, there's the Cooking Club with Bonita Femur, Invisibility, Elisabat, and Deuce Gorgon. The Cooking Club is responsible for making lunch for the whole school. Only problem? They suck at cooking. Seriously, why are any of these guys even here if they can't cook? And why are they in charge of cooking for the entire school? They said they caused trips to the nurse before. They should not be doing this. The only exception is Deuce. Deuce knows how to cook, but is gatekeeping his information because he doesn't want anyone to know he can cook, despite being in Cooking Club. His masculinity is fragile enough that he doesn't want people to know he can cook, but not so fragile he can't join Cooking Club in the first place? Baffling. Anyway, you get Deuce to finally show off his cooking skills, and no one really cares besides from being kinda surprised, shocking, and he gets the Cooking Club back on track. Now the Cooking Club are your friends, and they pop up to help you in multiple other storylines. Now we have the Fashion Club with Jennifer Long, Skelita Calaveras, Marisol Coxey, and Meowdy and Persephone. You start by helping the club settle a debate on which color is better. No matter which color you choose, that choice becomes the one that sides with Skelita. Jennifer ends up getting offended that no one really likes her design and runs off. After clearing up the misunderstanding, the dysfunctional little club starts preparing for a fashion show. A couple other side quests tie into getting this disaster of a fashion show ready. The show does manage to go on, and you end up getting to model for the clothes for the show. Next up, Robotics Club, with Rebecca Steam, Keith Burns, Claude Wolfe, and Caddy Noir. This entire questline is you being sent off on fetch quests to get different parts for the robot the club is building, and then doing a little puzzle minigame to build it. Despite you not even technically being a member of the club, you do almost all the work to bring this robot to life. The questline is over once the robot is alive and functional, and you get to name it. The robot also comes back into play during the Fashion Club quest, I believe. Lastly, Comic Book Club with Ghoulia Yelps, Nathan Rott, Gigi Grant, and Operetta. You start by getting Slow-Mo to teach Operetta to speak zombie so she can understand Ghoulia. This is so confusing to me because how does she understand what Slow-Mo is saying but not Ghoulia when they're both clearly speaking zombie to her? Both Ghoulia and Slow-Mo's dialogue is always groan, and then translation in parentheses. And there's no indication that Slow-Mo is speaking English, he still has the groan translation. Really confusing. You do get this line though, probably the funniest in the game, except maybe the scariest paid toilets line.
How about a student tax to use the bathroom facilities?
Don't you think the students would have a problem with that?
Yes, maybe you're right. I'm probably just a little homesick for Scaris. Wow, that was just a petite crazy. I don't know what I was thinking.
Anyway, the main quest is the club creating their own comic book character. You can name the character and choose their powers. The most fun part is when you get to dress up as the hero and go save Rochelle. This storyline ends after a successful book signing event. Mini-stories. There are also a couple of shorter quest lines that pop up every now and then. Usually these last only a day or two. There's Holt making music with Slow-Mo, which ties into the comic book club quests and the fashion club quests. There's one where Iris gets upset about a love letter left in Manny's locker. This one is kind of confusing to me. It ends up being one of the Werecat twins who leaves it there and tries to blame it on Caddy Noir. I don't really know what her end goal was. Does she just have beef with Caddy or Iris? Or was she genuinely in love with Manny and tried to hide it, or what? There's one really small quest that's just helping Elizabeth by feeding her lines while she makes some vague speech. Kinda awkward that the one character who's a professional actress needs someone to remind her what her lines are. There's also one with Twyla that unlocks her Boogie Sand mechanic that can be used to change your monster type whenever you want after completion. The most notable one is definitely the questline I've dubbed the Manny Racism quest. Basically, Manny Tor has been going around making offensive jokes about normies, which is what humans are called in this world. The people around him are very uncomfortable by his jokes and try telling him that, but he doesn't care and gets butthurt about his friends being mean to him. You have to talk to him multiple times and tell him to knock it off before he sees the error of his ways, and I don't think we even see him properly apologize. I understand what this quest is trying to go for, and I do think it actually succeeds in a couple ways, specifically what Jackson says when Manny tries talking to him. However, some actual consequences might be nice. Manny is let off way too easily for being blatantly racist. They tried, I guess. It could have been done worse. Side tangents. Let's go over a couple more story beats I want to discuss before moving on to gameplay stuff. Something I find very interesting is the lore around the cosmic fear-leading steps. Cleo sends you out to collect these fear-leading steps hidden around the school that she wants to use in your routine for Monster Nationals. She says this about the steps.
Age-old myths here at Monster High tell of a legendary fear-leading captain named Shiva Nataraja, who led her team to Monster Nationals victory 5 years running. Her secret? Ancient cosmic fear-leading steps that when combined into a routine are said to be unbeatable. Shiva disappeared decades ago under mysterious circumstances, and with her, the mystical fear-leading moves. However, rumors persist that the steps are hidden here at Monster High.
That's kind of a crazy lore drop that never gets brought up ever again. What makes the steps cosmic? Also, she won Monster Nationals 5 years running is interesting to me because this is a high school cheer competition, right? Maybe not, but we'll get to that later. Assuming it is, this means Girly was in high school for at least 5 years, which is odd, but at the same time it makes sense, I guess? This is Monster High, and most of the students are immortal or already dead. How long do they have to go to high school for? Is it dependent on what species they are? Food for thought. But also, crazy that Shiva just mysteriously vanished, but still managed to leave behind riddles for you to solve to find her cosmic steps, which I guess she just wrote down on paper? This is such a weird little piece of lore that gets zero explanation. Lastly, the ending. Did it seem like I brushed over the ending when I was talking about the main story? Yeah, well, so did the game. This game ends suddenly. You destroy the amulet, win the fear-leading competition somehow, and the end. Credits roll while you stare at everyone replaying the same animation over and over again awkwardly. I love this game, but wow, the ending leaves something to be desired. You can really tell they started getting super lazy towards the end of the story, which will become even more apparent when we get to the bugs and mistakes portion of this video. For now, this is a good segue into our gameplay section. Gameplay. Post-game, or lack thereof. So what can you do once the main story is finished? If you still have any side quests left, you can do those. You can find the rest of the collectibles if you don't have them all. You can do a couple other completionist things, like buying all of the clothing items if you want to get 100%. After that, you're stuck in an endless cycle of waking up, going to class again, and then going home. I guess you were kicked out of your clubs. There isn't really a post-game. The game won't force you out to restart, but once you've done everything, there's not much to do but run around aimlessly. Collectibles. There are 3 kinds of collectibles to find around Monster High: spiders, pennants, and locker codes. Spiders and pennants are self-explanatory, they're just little things hidden around school, some easier to find than others. The locker codes are combinations you can find written on the walls, and then used to open up lockers around the school and get what's inside. Sometimes it's a spider or a pennant, sometimes it's just spirit coins. I believe you can select lockers and try to open them before you find their code, but until you find the hidden code that corresponds to that locker, you can only guess. Secret passageways. Something else you'll need to find all of if you want 100% is the secret passageways hidden around school. There are 5 of these. A coffin in the outside graveyard will take you directly to the attic, an elevator in the foyer will take you to and from the theater, a particular water fountain will take you from one end of the school to the other, there's a bookshelf in the library that can be opened up, and lastly, tunnels hidden behind movable blocks in the hallway storage rooms can be traversed between. Make the bed / clean up clothes. At the end of the day, the things you do will tally up to give you an allowance of spirit coins. 2 extra things you can do to get more coins is make your bed each morning after getting up, and cleaning up your clothes on the floor via the closet. Flying spirit coins. You'll probably notice these loud-ass coins flying around the school as you go about your day. If you collect all 5, you'll gain 5 spirit coins. If you collect all 5 in order starting with the gold one, you'll get 10. Character dialogue. You can talk to all of the characters even when you're not doing a quest with them. They all have a number of random lines. Sometimes it's something basic, like complimenting your outfit, or maybe they'll give you a tip for the game, like explaining the flying spirit coin mechanic. Most dialogue will be repeated by any character, but there are a number of dialogues that are specific to each character. Character schedule. Every character changes their location in the school based on what time it is in-game. I was actually going to make a complete list of every character's schedule, but I was having technical issues and I just couldn't get it done. I don't know. If there's any specific character whose schedule you need to know, tell me. Easter eggs / fun facts. Clothing models. Almost every item of clothing you can buy and wear is the same style / model as one of the characters, usually just in a different color. Some are more obvious than others, like these tops clearly being Claudine's and these being Cleo's pants. Hair models. Similarly, every hairstyle is just a usually recolored version of a character's hair. Here's what each of those are. Caddy, but also the Werecat twins without the stripe, Katrine, Claudine, Draculora, Elizabeth, Gilda, Gigi, Iris, Jane, Jennifer, Bonita. This one I think is actually unique. I can't find anyone who has this hair. This one took a minute to figure out, but it's Rebecca, Scara, Toralei, Spectra, and Ghoulia. NPC monster types. The randomly generated NPCs around Monster High use the same customization as the player, but with limits. They tend to stick with the same basic clothing, and they can also only be a couple of monster types. Every other student at Monster High is either a vampire, a ghost, or a werewolf. I do kind of wish the NPCs had some more flavor, like why can't they use the gargoyle or sea monster model that the player can use? Maybe it's just for performance reasons or something, I don't know. There are also some male NPCs that walk around, but there are only werewolves and what is simply called character NPC ghoul male in the files. Ghoul is pretty vague, especially since that gets used as a replacement word for girl, and these guys kinda just look like regular people. 90% of the NPCs you see around are girls anyway. Some NPCs will even hold books as they walk or float through the hallways. Hold is used loosely. Boarded up doors. Ever wonder what these mysterious boarded up doors around school are? Me too! Too bad there literally isn't an answer. The sign makes me think it's some sort of art room, but you just can't get in. Maybe this is in reference to like the webisodes where the arts were underfunded or something. I just don't really get why they'd add this with no explanation. Maybe it's something that got scrapped in development? There aren't any extra locations found in the files, so the world may never know. The Taurus Robot. If you ring the bell in the school belfry 7 times or so, a robot will fall out. This guy is called Torbot, and he's the mascot of the company Taurus Games who worked on this game. He has some pretty concerning dialogue. Ever After High. It's pretty well known at this point that Monster High and Ever After High have connected universes. There's supposed to be a crossover movie between the two franchises that got scrapped. Applewhite and Raven Queen can be seen talking to Astronova at the end of the Boo York movie. C.A. Cupid transfers from Monster High to Ever After High, and there's a crossover book. This game also features some Ever After High Easter eggs, but it's a little confusing. There's an Ever After High poster on the wall of your character's bedroom. Certain character dialogues will reference wanting to go home and watch Ever After High. During the Upgrading the Creepateria questline, characters request having screens to watch Ever After High on, and once you do upgrade the Creepateria, the TV screens will show stills from the Ever After High cartoon. So, is Ever After High just a TV show in this universe? It seems that way here, but that's not the case in the rest of the lore. If you really want to try and make it work in canon, maybe there's an Ever After High reality show that the monsters can watch? We know the Ever After students only think of Monster High as a myth, but clearly the monsters know enough about the Ever After world for Cupid to be able to transfer. Much to think about. Bedroom posters. Aside from the Ever After High poster on the wall of your bedroom, there's a number of other posters as well. You can see posters referencing multiple Monster High movies like 13 Wishes and Haunted. But isn't that a little funny? Why does the player character who just started attending Monster High have pictures of ghouls like Howleen on her wall? Kinda creepy. Behind the curtains in the bedroom. The curtains in your room are automatically closed when you come home after school. If you mess around with the camera angle and peek behind the curtains, you can see that one outside background actually changes to be a night sky, but the other looks identical to how it does in the morning. I wonder why they only added that hidden detail for one window. Blackboards. All of the blackboards in the classrooms are pretty cute, honestly. It's some great attention to detail. The Mad Science board says today's lesson is to create a Frankenbat. The Biology board is teaching the biology of Frankenstein and the Venus flytrap. Ectonomics is showing the current stock market. Does that say Batcoin? Calculus is showing, basic algebra. I don't know calculus at all, but this is all very easily solvable. I guess they couldn't think of a pun for algebra. Homemake says it's birthday cake day, and what's werewolf stew? Ew. And Dead Languages has some assignments and a little fill-in-the-blank puzzle. The answers are Frankenstein, coffin, vampire, graveyard, and catacomb, if you were wondering. Posters around school. Besides the posters you put up during quests, like the bake sale and comic book flyers, there's many posters hung up around school. There's a flyer for One Night at Vampire Castle showing in the auditorium, The Dead Poet, minus the society I guess, Beware Venus Flytrap, Clockulus, Fashion Club featuring Claudine, which is funny because Claudine is not in the Fashion Club, and someone, Jennifer or Scalita maybe, has a line of dialogue about wanting her to join. Sports Club is every Friday. Before you leave, please clean up. This skull design. The Bancula, whatever that is. Remember your goggles and gloves before we science, and make it a year to Scream member. Paintings around school. There's also some fun portraits on the wall. There's Frankenstein, who clearly used the same base as the Dead Poet from earlier, a castle on a hill, a little werewolf, a beautiful vampire lady, a Sasquatch, a mummy, the Loch Ness Monster, some tree branches, and you can also find some certificates around, like this Spookville certificate. Papers around school. The Monster High halls are pretty filthy, honestly. There are papers littered everywhere. A lot of them have legible text on them too that say profound things such as, shopping time, going to the cinema, camping trip this Sunday, hey ghouls, let's go see One Night at Vampire Castle, study tonight, did you guys hear about the bake-off? Meet me at the foyer at 5, bake-off! This one I think says Sports Club either tonight or Thursday at 5 p.m. There's also what looks like a will you go out with me letter that someone has accepted, and my personal favorite, grr, arg, rah. Computer screens in the study hall. Some of the screens in the study hall have images on them. These include a chat forum, seemingly called Freaky Space, that Laguna, Draculora, Ghoulia, and Frankie are chatting on. I can only make out Laguna's message, and I think it just says, hey ghouls, what's going on tonight? This screen with 2 Monster High logos on it, an orange and green variant of this login page for Freaky Space, an email about a Fashion Club meeting that reads, hey fashionistas, we're meeting at the auditorium. Tell everyone, see you there. Another Freaky Space page that says, update your Freaky Space. Find friends, add a picture, new password, and freak something. I can't read the last one. This is the same screen that's on the computer in your bedroom. And lastly, a PNG of a computer. Nice. Change your hair at school. You can change your hairstyle in your bedroom, but you can actually change it at school too. The vanity in the auditorium is functional, so you can change your look in the middle of school. Errors. Text versus voice acting discrepancies. The lines of dialogue that you read when a character is talking very often don't actually line up with what the voice actors say. It's not always super egregious, but it's especially noticeable when a character has a distinct way of speaking. Abby is a big example of this.
Nice to meet you, Ghoul. I have good feeling about you.
Abby has a tendency to cut out extra words like articles when talking. The voice actor speaks correctly in character for Abby, but the script doesn't account for this and will leave in the extra words that the voicing will leave out. It's not just Abby. There's several places where the spoken dialogue and the on-screen text will be slightly different, but it's definitely the most noticeable with Abby.
Lovely to see you all here nice and early for a change, ghouls.
Iris/Gilda choice screws up. During the quest with the Enviro Club, you can choose if you want to give the plant food to Iris or Gilda. The character you don't choose will later ask you to go make a super growth potion for their plant. But for whatever reason, even if you choose to give the plant food to Gilda, she will act guilty when the plant grows out of control, even though it would be Iris's fault in this scenario. Gory Gazette versus Ghostly Gossip. In the movies, after the events of Haunted, Spectra changes her blog from the Ghostly Gossip to the Gory Gazette. Considering where this takes place on the timeline, Bloodgood correctly refers to Spectra's blog as the Gory Gazette. But at some point, despite Claudine's voice actress using the correct name, the text calls it the Ghostly Gossip.
Oh, I mean, she doesn't even get along with Spectra, especially after that Gory Gazette post which said that she and Deuce split up.
It's possible this is because Claudine was supposed to be referencing something that happened before Spectra's reformation, but either way, this is yet another discrepancy between text and voice lines. The broken fear-leading move. As you collect and practice the fear-leading moves for your routine, you might notice that despite the different names, a lot of the moves are identical. But even more egregiously, there's one move that simply doesn't have an animation. You can hit the right button, but your ghoul will refuse to do the front lunge move in seemingly all versions of the game. Bell Tower graphics. Ever been up to the bell tower? Nice view, right? Or maybe not. The view out of the bell tower windows is really screwed up. This bug didn't appear in the PC version though, only the Wii U. Flyers' weird pacing. During one of the early council meetings, Torlai asks for ideas on how to raise money. You suggest a bake sale, and everyone agrees. Then Torlai asks Laguna how they should get the word out. Laguna suggests flyers, to which Torlai says, "Great! So where are the flyers?" And then Laguna just already has them ready.
How did it go with the ideas on how to get word out to all of the students at Monster High I asked for? Great. It turns out that posting flyers is still one of the best ways to get the word out and capture student attention. My recommendation would be that the council post flyers to build student awareness about the bake sale.
So, what about the actual flyers?
Already done. I spoke to Lorna at the student newspaper, who was happy to help out. She got her designers to make up the flyer, while Headmistress Bloodgood allowed me to use the photocopy facilities in the office. She even gave me a bunch of spooky tape from the storeroom.
We just came up with the bake sale idea right now, and somehow Laguna had a prophetic vision about it and got all of the posters designed and printed out in the span of 5 seconds. Very impressive, Ghoul. Iris' broken line during Manny Quest. During Iris and Manny's mini-quest, Iris repeats this line twice instead of saying whatever she was supposed to say. No contact for Manny. Speaking of Manny, for some reason, Manny Tor doesn't have a contact in your phone. Every other character except for the 2 teachers have a bio you can read, but Manny just got forgotten, I guess? Or maybe I just didn't want to be friends with a racist. Perfect usage. Sometimes it feels like the writers were struggling to correctly and consistently use all of the monster pun-based slang. Understandably. Here we see fantastic being used right before the correct fangtastic. But one of the more egregious mistakes would be the use of perfect by non-werecat students. This doesn't really seem like a general monster pun, it's werecat specific. So why are other ghouls using it? Rochelle's incorrect French. I'll admit, I'm not a French expert, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't this statement not make sense? Ignoring the fact that magnifique is replaced with the fun monsterfique, why does Rochelle use K in her post? Doesn't K mean that or whom? The student council is going to do something that magnificent doesn't work well. Unless it's supposed to be that is magnificent, I don't know for sure, maybe whoever wrote this line knows more about French grammar than me, but everything I could find made it seem like this is just not correct. Most times people would say something like très magnifique when they're trying to just throw in a French phrase, so why not just use that? At Lorna. Why does Claudine at Lorna here when she's not part of the conversation? I can only assume this is an error. Cookies are brownies. During the bake sale arc, Deuce makes Creepalicious cookies and Cascaball cookies for the council. The posters have cute cookie designs on them, with the Creepalicious, or just creepy according to the poster, cookies being neon pink, and the Cascaball cookies being casketball designed. But when you actually do the bake sale quest, those aren't cookies. Those are brownies. Did they really run out of time to model a cookie, so they just went with basic brown rectangles instead? Or is one of the developers just gravely confused on what a cookie is? Notifications are irrelevant. When there are new newsfeed posts, you'll get a little notification. The notification will sound for every reply to a newsfeed chain as well. But these notifications honestly barely matter. Most of the time you can see all or almost all replies in a post chain immediately after the first notification, and every single annoying pop-up you get after that won't add anything new. It's really annoying. Nationals in the wrong place. It's said multiple times that the Monster Nationals will take place in the gymnasium, but when you actually get there in the game, it takes place in the auditorium instead. Laguna's broken dialogue. During one of the library meetings, Laguna's text box displays one of Deuce's lines from the previous meeting instead of what she's actually saying.
The whole of Monster High will be under Spookin' Common's control.
Okay, everyone, this is it. Our last-ditch effort to try and stop this nefarious pharaoh. Tonight, everyone needs to put on their thinking caps and try to come up with a totally foolproof plan.
No uniform for Caddy. When you, Frankie, Laguna, and Caddy are performing your fear-leading routine for Nationals, Caddy simply doesn't get a fear-leading uniform. Laguna gets one despite not originally being a fear leader, but they just couldn't be bothered to give Caddy one, I guess? She just stays in her original outfit while the rest of you match. Defending versus defeating. In one last example of the game getting super lazy towards the end, nobody caught that Laguna says defending instead of defeating here, I guess?
Mates, with moves like these, I think we might have a shot at defending Cleo and her cursed fear leaders at their own game.
You really didn't have time to have her do another take on this one line that completely changes the meaning of the sentence? Obviously this isn't the voice actress's fault, but they should have noticed this and had her do another take. Questions. What is up with Cleo's amulet model? Cleo's amulet is the catalyst for the entire plot, so why does it look like that? Like, what even is that? A box that she keeps it in, I guess? Most of the time you can't even see the amulet at all except for like a couple scenes, and it never shows up at all when she's supposed to be wearing it. They couldn't be bothered to add a necklace to Cleo's model, I guess, even though there are already many necklace models they could have just reused. How do some people know who you are? One of the first quests you get on day 1 is the Enviro Club questline. You are a new ghoul, have only met the council and Draculaura so far, but you walk up to the Enviro Club and Iris says, "Hey, your name, can you go get stuff for us?" Sorry, do I know you? Did we meet in Monster Middle School? The Cooking Club does this too, where during your first meeting, Bonita also addresses you by name and asks you to check on Deuce. Do I know you people? How did Toralei become president? Early in the council quests, Toralei nominates a vice president and mutters that it will help
Keep anyone suspicious about how I became prez off my back.
This never comes up again. I'm curious, what scheme did she pull to become student president? It also comes up that Deuce owes her a favor, but we don't find out why. Why are Persephone and Meowly in fear-leading uniforms? Every other character is in their regular outfit, but the Werecat twins, who are not on the fear-leading team, are wearing fear-leading uniforms 24/7. I mean, they have dolls in these outfits, and they were on Nephra's team in some of the webisodes, but this game takes place way after that. How come they get to wear uniforms without even being on the team, but Caddy doesn't get one? Creepy College. Cleo mentions that Creepy College beat Monster High in last year's Nationals. College? Why are the high schoolers going up against a university? I'll admit, I don't know anything about cheerleading competitions, but I competed in dance for years when I was younger, and the competitions were separated by age. I'd imagine school cheerleading competitions are the same way. Why are we having high school students going up against college-age students? No wonder they lost. Why did Howleen take the powder? During Twyla's Boogie Sand mini-quest, she freaks out because her sand has been stolen from her locker. The only people who know her locker code are her and Howleen, so we're sent to go ask Howleen if she knows what happened. Howleen is just like, oh yeah, I took it, here you go, and doesn't elaborate. Why would you take that without asking, Howleen? What did you need it for? Twyla needs to start rethinking her friendships, apparently. Dollars or spirit coins. The main currency in the game is spirit coins. There are also references to spirit coins in some of the character dialogue. But during the main quest, Laguna mentions needing $500 as an entrance fee. What are spirit coins then if not the main currency of this world? Curious. Is this parkour civilization? There's plenty of areas you can take little shortcuts to by doing some parkour. Easiest example would be getting into the headmistress's office from the foyer instead of going all the way upstairs and down the hallway. But there's certain places in Monster High that appear to only be accessible by doing parkour. Like the pool, for example. To get up to the second floor with all the benches, you have to jump off the diving board backwards and grab onto the wall and climb up there. This is not ADA compliant, my god! What about Finnegan? What about anyone who isn't a god at parkour or can fly? This is absurd. Comments miscellaneous. Deuce asks a vampire for garlic. At one point in the Cooking Club questline, Deuce needs some garlic to make lunch. Someone, I think Elizabeth, comments that this means vampires can't eat the meal and they'll have to be informed. Deuce asks you, the player, to go get some garlic for him. This is all well and good, except for the fact that I happen to be playing as a vampire. I know there's no way they would ever go above and beyond to add extra dialogue if the player is a vampire, so it just looks a little messed up that Deuce acknowledges that vampires can't be around garlic, then turns around and asks the vampire to go fetch some for him. Gigi is a pink normie, I guess. During Twyla's Boogie Sand quest, Gigi asks to use the powder to become a normie for a minute to see how it feels. Twyla uses the powder on Gigi and turns her into a normie, but once again they couldn't be bothered to change anything about her model, so Gigi is simply a pink human, I guess. Missing characters. This game has a lot of characters, but there are a couple notable ones who don't appear in the game at all for whatever reason. Avea Trotter from Freaky Fusion doesn't appear despite Nathan Rotz, Irina Von Boo, and Bonita Femur from the same movie all being present. This can probably be chalked up to not wanting to make a complicated character model, although Cyrena has a tail instead of legs and they didn't have a problem making her. But also interestingly, despite Lorna McNessie and Marisol Coxey from the Monster Exchange Program series appearing in the game, the other exchange students, Easy Dawn Dancer, Batsy Claro, and Kirsty Trollston, are nowhere to be seen. The new Student Council. In the game, the Student Council is comprised of Torlai as the president, Laguna as the vice president, Abby as the treasurer, and Spectra, Katrine, and Yu in unidentified roles. But there is actually a doll set of a different 5 characters making up the Student Disembodied Council. The Target exclusive pack has Slow-Mo as the president, which I believe is a reference to the webisodes, Laguna as the vice president still, Gilda as the treasurer, Cleo as the social chair, and Skara as the secretary. There's not much to say about this, I just think it's interesting. It seems Laguna is always destined to be vice president. Bake Sale Run. If you're playing on console, you full tilt the joystick to run and half tilt the joystick to walk. I can't find a way to walk instead of run on PC. The only way you can walk is during the Bake Sale minigame, where instead of running, you do this really goofy sped up walk animation. I just think it looks really funny. Holt versus Hyde. For whatever reason, one of the quests prompts you to go talk to Hyde. This is interesting, considering that's his last name. His first name is Holt. There's no reason for them to refer to him by his last name here, so I can only assume someone made a mistake. Or maybe our character just has a very formal relationship with Holt. Nationals, not Mashinals. In the webisodes about Fear Leading, the competition they were trying to win was called the Monster Mashinals, a play on Nationals and the Monster Mash. It's not that big of a deal, but it's a shame they didn't use this same pun in the game. They just call it Nationals instead. Scorchio Firmani. There are multiple references to a Scorchio Firmani in some small dialogue bits. This is clearly a reference to Giorgio Armani, the Italian fashion designer. Just a fun new character to add to the lore. School every day. There's no calendar in the game, but the story takes place over more than just 5 days. What about the weekend? Do we have school every single day? That sounds like a nightmare. Stage fright. Seeing as the new Ghoul is meant to be your self-insert, they don't have much of a personality. You're mostly just given 1 or 2 dialogue options that are pretty neutral, with the occasional opportunity to be a bit snarky or unhelpful. During the fashion show quest, when you're asked to model, you're given 2 dialogue options. I have stage fright, or okay, I'll face my fear. So yeah, one of the only canon facts about the new Ghoul you don't get to decide is that she apparently has stage fright. which is also kind of funny considering she's a fear leader who is planning to compete in nationals on a stage. So the robot thing is kind of messed up, right? Let's talk about the Robotics Club questline for a sec. You help the club by doing all of the work to create a sentient robot. It is fully capable of thought and seemingly emotion. Then you just set your creation loose in the school. Where does it go after school? Does it live with Rebecca, or does it just sleep in the attic? At one point, you go to Rebecca and ask to borrow the robot, and she replies that the robot has a mind of its own and that it gets to decide if it wants to help or not. The robot says that you gave it life and will do whatever it can to help. Why does this feel so morbid to me? Sure, Rebecca and Frankie were also monsters who were created rather than born, but they have parents who took care of them. This poor robot was created by a bunch of high schoolers. I feel like the new Ghoul should be paying child support. Fundraiser map. Let's end on a lighter note. Do you know that the fundraisers take place on a completely different map than the normal school map? There's different locations listed in the files for specifically the fundraisers. How fun. And that is everything you could ever possibly need to know, or definitely didn't need to know, about a game from 2015. A lot of aspects of this game feel really hastily thrown together or needlessly lazy, but there's honestly a lot of charm and care put into some of the small details. The school and characters are incredibly movie accurate, and while I maintain that development had to have been rushed in certain places, I do think there were at least some developers who really put their heart into what is overall a very enjoyable game. So if you're a Monster High fan and you haven't before, I recommend playing this yourself. It's no longer available on Steam, but I was still able to play the PC version through other means. It's really easy if you look. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I only made like 3 videos last year, but who knows, maybe I'll make even more this year, we'll see. So subscribe if you would like. Bye!